Red Zone Jesus, Hunter Lipke.
I heard you yesterday in the postgame say he should just get it as the single back.
Stop pretending he's a fullback. That needs to stop. He was not bad as a single back when he was playing in college. They're just trying to turn him into a lead back.
Who would have ever thought that people would be clamoring for Hunter Lipke to get more touches than Deuce Vaughn? I feel like Deuce has 4 people blocking for him. Like, he has had 0 running lane or opportunity. I mean, he's getting touched 2 yards deep in the backfield during this garbage time. It's like
you're punching a little person.
Every single time they would hand him the ball, because it was like 3 plays in a row, he was getting hit as he was receiving the ball and getting twisted up. And Clarence Hill was sitting in front of me in the press box, and he's going like, dear God, they are going to get poor Deuce killed today.
So look, red zone is still an issue. 1 of 4. Hunter with the touchdown after Turpin had that 46-yard play. Bill Belichick saying Cavante was the most dangerous returner in the league. Their first touchdown in their last 8 red zone trips. Now, they were setting this up to, I think it was a seesaw. It was like, we just want to have a couple of handoffs, kill the clock here. But
kick a field goal on purpose, maybe.
Well, we also need to score, like, to get this monkey off our back, to quiet this narrative a little bit. And Lipke did it. I don't think it's going to quiet very much. 6
straight goal-to-go chances without a touchdown, which is the longest streak in Dak's career. Previously, the longest he'd ever gone was 3. And so that was, when you start the game like that. Now, look, shouldn't have even been a problem. Red zone shouldn't have been a problem yesterday because Luke Schoonmaker should have caught that pass. That should have been a touchdown. And that should have done the red zone right there.
In the red zone?
Yeah, I think it was like an 18-yard pass or something like that. And so it's one that they should have converted right there.
Not the easiest play, but perfect throw. It hit his hands.
By the way, from my trolling you guys through the text messages yesterday, there were a lot of people in the press box that discovered that, the red zone doesn't start at the 20. They were all very confused. They're like, I didn't realize the red zone. I thought the red zone was the 20 and in. It's like, no, it's inside the 20. And so we all discovered that yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the line, if you notice, when they had the ball spotted, the line was on the outside of the 20. But when the Patriots got the ball on the ensuing possession, when the ball was spotted at the 20 on the touchback, the blue line was inside the 20.
Most times you want a longer play for your stats. I could see McCarthy petitioning the league to be like,
yeah,
can you make this a shorter
zone.
You make this a shorter touchdown throw to make our numbers versus Kellen look better.
I'm not kidding, because we had that was the Christian Gonzalez got hurt right there when they got to the 20. So we had kind of a lull, and I was looking at the screen and I was like, I'm ready to fire this text off to Sean. Please throw a touchdown pass here. I was cheering for the 20-yard touchdown pass right there to be able to text.
I'm still not worried. I still think it's fluky.
Can I ask you the question you asked McCarthy on Friday? When does it become a trend to you?
Well, that's a good question. My counter back.
Of course, you asked it.
My counter back is, my answer to that is when you have enough game circumstances to where I think should be analyzed. You know, McCarthy gave us the answer that I was preaching about last week. Giants, rain conditions, beat down. I disqualified that second half in terms of the data. Yesterday counts. There's no doubt about it. But you're gonna have to convince me that Mike McCarthy is ass backwards in his red zone plays, that their concepts are outdated, they're stupid, they don't make any sense. I do think I could feel, I'm like, is this getting in their heads too? Like, wouldn't you second guess if you're looking at those list of red zone plays, like, okay, this hasn't been working, so let me go opposite. Let me do something else. I still think it's a little bit fluky, even though a lot of Cowboy fans were very unhappy. Despite blowing out New England, they were not happy because this is going to cost you against San Fran and Philly.
I mean, look, it might.
Third worst red zone team in the league right now, 37% conversion, only better than the Armpit and the Saints.
Yeah, and the Saints, like, they've been bad in the red zone all year. I don't see it as becoming a problem because I did some research on this, and most of the time, quarterbacks. So red zone is not it's more quarterback dependent than anything else. Quarterbacks generally have the same red zone percentage of touchdowns, regardless of who the coordinator play caller is. Brady's was the same with Bill O'Brien, with Josh McDaniels. It was the same in Tampa as it was in New England. Manning's was about the same, regardless of who the coordinator was. It's
Dax
more,
was sky high last year. They
Dax
were
was
number 1.
super high last year. That was an outlier.
And Kellen started off 3 or 4 yesterday in the red zone. I went and checked.
Chargers 5th in red zone conversion rate. That is after Dallas was 1st last year, and the poor old Chargers were down at like 20th last year. So
and the poor old Chargers.
But I don't care about the ranking. What was the percent? The percentage?
55% last year. They're 75% this year.
That's a big jump. That's a big jump.
Chargers got blanked in the second half yesterday. I need to add that to the evidence room.
And there are going to be outliers regardless. Like Dak had an out. Like Mahomes, right? He was 71% last year, but the previous year was 62, 59, 60. So it's 3 years in a row. He's all about the same. And then before that, he was 73. So he had an outlier, and then steady, then outlier. And Dak had outlier, and Dak's been more all over the place than most. 71, 63, 57, 51, 59, 65. So he's been kind of all over the map too.
But we'd all agree, right, that if they were to go, and I'm not saying they will, if they were to go the whole season with a 38% conversion rate in the red zone, that's not just within the margin of error of outlier. That's like you have a problem.
That's something different, and it could be, there's some luck that goes into red zone.
Well, I wrote down 3 different factors. Luck was one of them. So,
yeah.
Luck, plays, personnel. What is it? Now, the easy answer is it's a combination of everything. That's the easiest answer.
That is, right?
Are they missing a big body? Are they missing your power back? Are they missing your Des Bryant throw it up dude?
Yeah.
Are they missing a dynamic tight end? I want to look at all those things before I freak out. I find it hard to believe that Mike McCarthy's plays are dumb in the red zone. But plays, personnel, and luck are my 3 factors.
Look, like I said, if you go back and you look at them, generally, quarterbacks have about the same, and you'll have a bad year, you'll have a good year. And last year was a great year, and this year they're in the midst of a down year at that. It's a lot of randomness that goes to red zone.
The West Coast concept in general is you challenge the field horizontally instead of vertically. Like it's meant to spread out the defense, and then you can get lanes to take advantage of. So if you're going to spread the field horizontally, then the more that the vertical closes up, the more that I feel like, and this has occurred at times with some teams with West Coast concepts, is that the more you're just cramming 11 guys into those horizontal spaces and that they're not forced to challenge vertically. And I think look, Brian thinks it comes down to bad luck and execution, because he said, you've got a touchdown that was pulled off the board by a Tyron Smith holding call. You had Tyron just missing a block. You have Hendershot just not knowing to cut the ball upfield. He thinks that, yesterday, Schoonmaker drops a touchdown.
Dak and Pollard running into each other.
Yeah, look, Pollard's got to know where he's going.
So y'all's take on it. Dak Prescott asked about the red zone issues after.
Something we've got to get better at. But we won 38-3, so I'm not going to sit here and harp on that, but that definitely gives us something to work on. Obviously, coming into this game, I talked about it, about 2 weeks ago, even when we won the game, the last game here right against New York, that we could have been better in the red zone. So it's an area that we're going to continue to focus on. We're going to try to get better at it, and when we do, it's going to be dangerous.
Look, I know that it's really unfair to go look at offenses quarterbacked by Aaron Rodgers, Steve Young, and Joe Montana. I would be interested to see how West Coast offenses in the red zone fared over the past 30 years. Not right now, but, RJ Choppy's study for later in the week. And do you have to abandon West Coast principles when you're that close? Maybe that's a question for Jerry tomorrow at 8:30.
No, I don't think you have to do that. I think it's just it requires a little bit of, when we were in Oxnard, you remember how we talked about there was such little motion that we were noticing in the practices in the offense? Yeah. The one area where we kept seeing it was on the goal line. And in red zone, when they would do red zone drills, that's where they'd do this back and forth motion with Deuce Vaughn, or they'd get Turpin in there. That's the kind of stuff you have to do down there, is that you've got to come up with different creative ways to.
But then people get mad. Hendershot got a handoff. Oh my gosh. Turpin, you're just going to swing it out there? Just hand it up the middle. Give it to Lipke.
Did you ever anticipate that 4 weeks through the season, though, and this is largely because of the red zone issues, did you ever anticipate that Daron Bland would lead this team in touchdowns coming off of passes?
Is he?
He has two touchdowns on interceptions.
Just like the Rangers they're carried by their bats. the Cowboys team is carried by their defense, and this defense is going to have to carry its entire season. And we talked last week. A lot of people got really frustrated with your take about Dak Prescott against the Arizona Cardinals in a game where they needed Dak Prescott to carry the team, and it all kind of fell apart for the offense whenever they were called upon. The defense showed up and made it a very easy game this weekend.
Yeah, I tell you what, blowing 3 out of 4 teams out. Now, unfortunately, you lost a game against a really crappy team, but just going back out there against another NFL team, I get that maybe the Cowboys haven't had the toughest schedule. Mm-hmm. I totally get that if you want to be critical, and I get the other side of it, but it is hard to blow out teams in the NFL. I mean, last night, Kansas City's favored by 9. I know that San Francisco was favored by 14 over Arizona. Like, usually if you are way better than the other team, one of the best teams in the NFL is playing one of the worst teams in the NFL, you're favored by double digits. But it's not like a lot double digits. It's just like 10, 12, maybe up to 14 points. And that's a big spread in the NFL. So for the Cowboys to go out again and win another game by almost 40 points, like, that is really impressive. I don't know how they're going to play later. I don't know how they're going to play down the stretch. But man, when it just shows, without cussing or anything, what were they doing to each other leading up to the Arizona game? Because 3 out of 4 games, that defense has looked like the best defense in the NFL in 2023 and one of the best defenses you could watch.
Yes.
And then, you know, I don't want to go back. I'm trying to be really, really positive here because this is a positive thing. You are 3-1. That's a good start. I know there's 17 games, but you're a fourth way through your season and you're 3-1. If you do that every time, you're going to be 12-4, let's say, going into the last game of the year. That's a heck of a year to have. I do think this defense, it just shows you how they have to win. I'm not going to go to Rangers.
It covers up the blemishes. It covers up the blemishes for sure.
When the Rangers score 7 runs, they have a chance to win.
Yeah.
If they score 4, they don't have much of a chance to win. And that's kind of the Rangers offense can cover up a lot of things that aren't right with the Rangers.
Yeah, I think, you know, going back to, this is one of the reasons I wanted to kind of compare to Arizona. You know, the Cowboys are 9-1 coming off of losses dating back to 2021. That's great. And I know Brad Sham, I was listening this morning, and they were talking specifically about McCarthy and what he thinks the reason for that is. And he thinks, you know, it specifically is the process about how they handle their business. They didn't handle it in a couple of weeks ago. They didn't handle it right against Arizona. But Arizona had a really good game plan. They knew what they could take advantage of on the Cowboys defense that exposed them just enough, and they made it very difficult for the Cowboys to push the ball up the field when they wanted to. Cowboys are still really good right now at moving the ball between the 20s. You want to get from 20 to 20? We got you, man. We can do all this. They looked clunky yesterday. They looked clunky whenever they got into the red zone. That was bad. Does
Dak get a tackle for the game?
Tony Pollard when he bumped into him?
Yeah, that was a good stop.
I don't think he gets a tackle for that, Mike. But that is a good question, maybe for Steven later, to see if that's the case. But the way that Daron Bland shows up in this game, you're missing Diggs. You know that's a thing, and you know that last year Daron Bland was good, but I'm not sure that I anticipated this kind of this quality of him. Now, will there be half of the audience out there going, New England stinks? They're terrible. Hey, you've beaten 3 bad teams. And, you didn't beat Arizona. You've only played bad teams so far. I'm sure there's going to be that. That's what the Cowboys are looking at here coming up on San Francisco.
And there's a point to that. They are correct.
Yes.
That is factually true. Probably at the end of the year, the 4 teams that you've played so far will not make the playoffs. Maybe the Giants somehow will turn it around and play better football tonight and later on in the year. But factually, I'm not agreeing with those people, but when you say that, if that was somebody's point that's a anti-Cowboys person, you're not wrong on that side, but you're also not wrong to say, wow, the Cowboys defense has been and has looked like the best defense in the NFL by far through 4 weeks of the season. That's also factually, I know it's opinion, but it's correct too. You can have both sides right now have points if they want to make those 2 points.
And, to add to that, we knew going into this game that Mac Jones was not going to run a lot of read options like Josh Dobbs did against the Cowboys 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and I know we'll get into it later, but he definitely can't do the power bottom play.
You don't think that he's a power bottom guy?
No,
that's not his skill set.
Nope.
Like, you knew that it wasn't going to be that much of a threat, so he was going to be one of those guys that you could pressure all day. You could focus on stopping the run, focus on stopping Ramondre Stevenson, focus on stopping Zeke. You don't have to stress too much about the quarterback taking off on a read option.
Can I ask you this off of kind of what we're talking about? The Cowboys defense, the Cowboys blowing them out. 18-3, 28-3 at halftime, 28-3. Yeah, you went from 18-3 to 28-3 pretty darn quickly there. To me, this game shows the Cowboys have to play with the lead. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible for them to come back, and it's only 4 games, but one game you were down 18-10 at halftime, and you never really got close to taking the lead. And I think that's the pressure on the offense. Hey, we're not playing as good a defense. We need the offense to start matching touchdown for touchdown, and hopefully we'll stop them a few times. But you guys got to keep going down the field and scoring touchdowns. That's probably too much to ask of this team. The other thing, too, is if you become a little one-dimensional, if the Cowboys have to become a passing attack team because the score dictates it, the Cowboys could be in really big trouble. But, man, when the Cowboys are playing with the lead and the other team can't really run the ball, as in they can't just say, hey, let's drive the ball down the field. It might take 8 minutes to get into scoring position, and we still might only score 3. Well, when you're down by 10 points in the second half, it's tough to have an 8-minute drive that doesn't get 7 points.
Yeah.
And so teams have to push the ball a little bit differently and try to get chunk plays. And the Cowboys destroy teams so far this year when they have to try to get 10-plus yards somewhat per play because the first half went so well for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and man, they have this ability to create turnovers that we haven't seen. Like, we've seen it with this Dan Quinn defense, but there's been years where we've been like, we're the worst at turning the football over. How do teams do that? And they just have, I don't know if it's just the guys that have the knack for it, or if it's just the scheme is so fast that it forces other teams, but it puts a positive in the Cowboys offense because the Cowboys offense can do some work, a little extra work that they don't necessarily have to do.
And I'm with you with the defense. I would say, 1, you have to have the talent. This is the most talented defense the Cowboys have had in a very long time. 2, defensive coordinator. Dan Quinn is arguably the best defensive coordinator in football today. And so I think, 1, you have to have the talent. Because if Dan Quinn had, I don't know, the Denver Broncos, he's going to look like a crappy defensive coordinator. There's nothing you can do with those guys.
He's going to have to rebuild that defense,
to make it good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I know I'm going back to the Texas Rangers, but last 2-3 years, it didn't matter if Bruce Bochy was the manager. You weren't going to win. You didn't have enough talent to win. But this is a very, very talented Dallas Cowboys defense. And then Dan Quinn knows how to use that defense and those pieces to get the most out of each individual to make it a good team defense.
And to that point, Mike, that's where, you're blowing out these teams the way you have. You have more talent than the Jets. You have more talent than the Giants. You have more talent than the Cardinals. That's why that was frustrating, because that should have been just another, hey, you just walked through that team.
We saw what San Francisco did yesterday.
Yeah, they showed up ready to play. Now, then what you did yesterday is kind of what's expected. Whenever the rest of that team is devoid of talent, you should show up in that manner that you did yesterday and blow them out in the same way. I am kind of interested in the offense down the road, because an 877-881-1053 truckwreck.com text line is this, do you have faith that this offense will, by mid-season, by the end of the season, figure it out?
Well,
because it's kind of okay.
Not really.
I'm okay that they're clunky right now because they have time. It's not like it's the end of the season, Mike, where we're sitting there going, oh my gosh, we're running out of time and we still haven't figured this out yet.
Jerry's all about flash, right? Jerry Jones' whole life has been about flash. And so I think a lot
when
of,
he was riding on that half donkey, half horse.
Yeah, I saw his bus. I saw this bus the other day. I forget what was that. I was like, there's Jerry's bus. The we're used to the Cowboys being an offensive team. If you just think of, even in the 90s when they were the best defensive team in the NFL, you still thought of offense because of Troy and Emmett, Michael, all that. It's okay for threes. It's okay as long as you don't turn over the ball. Now, every once in a while, you are going to have to ask Dak to bail you out. Is he good enough to? That's your opinion. He's a good quarterback. If you believe that he can elevate a team to another level, great. If you don't,
he's going to be called upon at some point. It will happen.
But no, so I think this team is built the way that most Cowboy fans don't understand football. And that is muddy it up, make it a slower paced game, let our defense dictate the game. And we're not used to that at all. Tony Romo's teams never had this situation. And obviously, before Tony Romo, it was a pile of crap, so it didn't matter. So if you look at over the last 10 plus 15 years of Cowboys football, we're used to saying the offense has to score 30 or we are in trouble, which means, hey, is the offense going to figure it out? Well, with teams like this, when you think of Legion of Boom, when you think of teams that were led by defenses, San Francisco's been led by defense for half a decade now. They've made the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. They almost made the Super Bowl last year with the last pick in the draft as a rookie. Why? Because they muddy up the game. They rely on their defense to dictate the tempo, flow, style of the game. It's not that fun to watch. To be honest, it's not the most fun to watch San Francisco play football. You have to be like hardcore football to be like, I love 3 and outs. I love punting. I love field position battles. I love my team not turning over the ball and just kind of, hey, our defense is going to give us the opportunities to put up 3, to put up 7, and we're going to try to win games 23-10. Like, that's a blowout. Now, I get the Cowboys are doing it way better and way different, but I like your question. I don't like if they don't start turning into one of the best offenses, it won't. But this is the way that this team is constructed to win. And the Cowboys, I'm going to be honest, intentionally did this knowing Dak is not Patrick Mahomes, is not Josh Allen, I know he's having a horrible start to the year, Joe Burrow. They know after 6 years of watching him play quarterback, they're not going to build a team around Dak Prescott and say, Dak, you have to carry it because we didn't spend much money on defense. We gave you all the weapons we possibly could. We need you to match Patrick Mahomes touchdown for touchdown.
Right.
It's never going to happen, and they understood that, and I think the Cowboys honestly did a good job the way that Jalen Hurts is built around in Philadelphia. Jalen will never be a guy to go 40 for 40 with you. They have to dictate the game a different way. And I think the Cowboys have done a good job of dictating a game around the strengths of their quarterback to go, our strength of our quarterback needs to be different. I know people don't like that because it's not fun to watch. But I think they've done a good job of building a team around Dak Prescott to go, we can't make Dak the focal point. He can be a leader, all these things, but we're not going to ask him to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
It feels like AFC North football, where you're watching Baltimore and Cleveland, and they're all running, and they're just like, no, our defense is going to win this one 10-0 today, so don't worry about it.
We got 10 takeaways from Cowboys and Patriots yesterday, and we begin with number 1, and that is certainly the return of the defense. Last week, not good. We know about it. We talked about it all week, but they were smothering yesterday. They held New England to 253 total yards. They were just 4 of 13 on third down, 0 for 2 on fourth down. How about that fourth and short stop?
Yeah.
The way they were able to get that. I know you'll break that down more on Krusty's Corner, but the leverage, I mean, that's beautiful. That's not some of this Cowboys defense we've seen a lot of. That was a phenomenal play.
No, absolutely. And here you go. It's, the Patriots basically get into that tush push, and what happens though is that Zeke really didn't help very much with the.
Did he not pull the push?
No, him and Smith-Schuster were the two guys that were pushing, but really good job up front with the way the Cowboys played that. Golston and Hankins and those guys got really, really low and stood everybody up, and then you had Damone Clark over the top.
Yeah.
And Clark actually was able to hold Mac Jones kind of in place by going over the top. But the great job by the line. But, yeah, Zeke and Schuster, like zero push at all. We see in Philly how they do it. They get behind that thing, and they really get their quarterback moving forward. But the Patriots just couldn't get that done.
Philly's got it down. But these other teams are trying it now, and they're not finding the guaranteed success the same way.
Well, the quarterback's different
for sure.
With
yeah,
the lower body power. We've seen those videos of at Alabama or Oklahoma with Hurts. He's squats and stuff, and being in the squat racks and massive amounts of weight and stuff like that he's been able to do. But yeah, that was really well played by the Cowboys defense. They even had Leighton Vander Esch's hand, like he was in a 4-point stance trying to like submarine that thing. It was a good effort all around.
Well, and that would be another takeaway for me is just the linebackers, the difference in their play. And this deserves a lot of credit needs to go to Hankins and Mozzie for this. Yeah. You're keeping them clean. But Damone Clark had his best game of the season, in my opinion, and then Leighton Vander Esch. Both of them were flying around, making plays, but specifically in the run game, Damone Clark was in the backfield quite a bit.
Yeah, Damone Clark played really well for you yesterday, and you mentioned Vander Esch. The issues that the Cowboys are going to have in the running game that I think maybe going forward is when they play their nickel, and now they're going to start running at that linebacker who is the safety, whether it's Bell, whether it's Curse, Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
I could see teams starting to say, and they're pretty good playing the run when they can keep regular personnel on the field. What I've noticed is when their nickel linebacker comes on as that safety that plays as that linebacker,
mm-hmm.
there could be some problems dealing with the run there. And teams maybe will get you into that and try and run at that linebacker.
Is there one that you think is better suited than the others? Like maybe Wilson struggled?
Curse, I thought Curse played better from last week. Bell, these guys, though, it's a problem for them having to deal with 310-pound linemen firing off the ball and getting into them. And this is it. Dan Quinn's going to play a dangerous game with you because he's thinking, okay, well, I could put that guy down there and play him in coverage, but teams are going to say, well, okay, if you're going to do that, we'll consider that a light box and we'll run at that guy. That's where I think Dan has got to figure out how much do you really want to play, and that's a very, very prevalent part of what they do defensively. They play that nickel, they play it with that safety
as
that linebacker, and the last couple of weeks, teams have kind of found a way to run and get somebody up on that nickel linebacker.
Probably a talking point this week as well with San Francisco.
They will figure out a way.
Be huge with San Francisco. Yeah. But overall, it's worked. Most teams can't consistently beat you by running that way. And the Cowboys, for the most part, throughout Dan Quinn, have done a nice job limiting the super chunk play runs. But in some of those games, Green Bay's game last year, a couple of chunk play runs, and then you saw it versus Arizona. If you're going to be able to go 20, 30, starting the game with your quarterback going 40-plus yards, now you got a huge problem on your hands. And the Niners are certainly a team that could probably, show you a little something there.
Absolutely. Third takeaway, the defense when it comes to the run defense. A lot was made about the return of Ezekiel Elliott, but Zeke just 2.3 yards per carry.
Much better with the squareness of the defense.
No doubt.
Much better with the down linemen. You didn't get the pin and pulls that we saw the previous week. There were a couple of times they tried to pull linemen, but Cowboys were right there. The Hankins, the Mozzie, those guys were all right there. The linebackers, we mentioned them already, but they did a great job of staying square and filling gaps and playing downhill.
They sure did. And Mozzie, to me, you look at rookie first rounders. I saw this stat. He posted a 25% pass rush win rate on 8 pass rushing snaps against New England. He only saw the field for 17 total snaps, which tied his season high, but he was dominant. When he was out there yesterday, the dude was making plays. Mozzie was big, but a huge step in the right direction. You give up 7.4 yards a carry, 222 yards the week before to Arizona. You bounce back against a team wanted to run the football against you. Ramondre Stevenson and Zeke were non-factors. They did a fantastic job. The big takeaway, and I know we got texts all night about this, number 4 would be, yes, the red zone struggles. And I know that's something that you probably watch.
Yeah, just when I do Krusty's Corner, give us a listen then. When is that again, Dawson?
Coming at 4:40.
Yeah.
4:40. I'm gonna walk you through the red zone.
And I look forward to that.
Yeah, I'm going to walk you through that.
Because, of course, you scored 38 points. You get 2 touchdowns from your defense. You get the extra 2 points, of course, from the amazing trick play that you had on the point after attempt. But that is something over the course of the season through 4 weeks. They are still trying to work out with the red zone, and maybe they found something there with Hunter Lipke. That's another takeaway for me. Number 5, Hunter Lipke. This guy can do it, man. Give him the rock. Let him make some plays. And I think we got something from Brian Schottenheimer. He was talking to the media earlier. He was making fun of Lipke's touchdown celebration because he spikes it, and it's his first NFL touchdown.
Right.
So then they've got to go get him the ball back. So Schotty was making fun of him, saying he needs to work on that. And he said, quote, feels like he's going to have a lot more of those. Maybe that's why he left it out there. Maybe we're going to see more Hunter Lipke in the red zone in those kind of goal-to-go situations.
Yeah, Hunter Lipke as a runner is better than Hunter Lipke as a blocker. That's just, he just doesn't have a very good feel for that right now of going in there and squaring up and digging somebody out. But as a runner, very capable of that.
Number 6, just the offense as a whole, very efficient yesterday. Like, Dak came out, was shredding New England. We went through his numbers in the post-game show. His last 2 games, I mean, you're not going to find a guy with a better passer rating against a Bill Belichick defense in the 3 games he's played him.
3 opportunities to 12 or 97. I would challenge anybody that's ever played Bill Belichick to have a 97 passer rating against him.
Completed 82% of his passes. The offense did what they needed to do, and they did exactly what we talked about this week when it comes to the air yards, pushing the ball a little bit more downfield. You had 4 receivers yesterday that had catches of 18 yards or more. So they did more of that, and they didn't need to. Maybe those numbers could have been even better because the fourth quarter, really, it's turned into a preseason game. But the first half, you saw that. You had a 28-yard chunk play to Michael Gallup, 18 yards to Jalen Tolbert. Ferguson had a 20-plus yard catch, hit a 20-yard touchdown to CeeDee Lamb. Hopefully these are positives going in the right direction there with McCarthy and this Texas Coast offense.
For sure. I mean, one way to help yourself in the red zone is just avoid it a little bit, and you did that on the CeeDee Lamb touchdown. It's like, okay, we can capitalize by using our best players and going down the field. I think he threw the ball 5 times, 15 or more yards down the field. Like a couple of those are a lot of yak plays,
sure.
Gallup, Tolbert, but it was certainly nice to see. And how about Ferguson? Ferguson was a beast yesterday.
Oh, perfect segue. So that's my next takeaway. I'm giving love to Fergie, but also Jalen Tolbert. Like, Jalen Tolbert didn't get targeted a ton, but you're seeing the growth from Tolbert, and he makes the outstanding special teams play.
Yes, that was great.
Which got the crowd going. So Ferguson had a career high in targets, catches, and yards. 7 catches on 7 targets for 77 yards. Yes, his reported girlfriend, Haley Cavender, was in the building. Maybe that's why he played better. But Fergie, to me, he's continuing that upward trajectory where we're not going to be missing Dalton Schultz at the end of the year. Ferguson's a better player. Now, Scooney, we can have a conversation about. I'm not writing Scooney off, but he needed to make that catch.
Yeah, I think the thing with Dalton Schultz that I'm learning to appreciate here now that he's gone is that he was good at the minimum stuff.
He's reliable.
Yeah, getting open, catching the ball. There wasn't enough plus after he caught the ball, I think, to hang on to him, especially at the kind of money that he wanted. But, man, dealing with young guys can sure make you appreciate a steady veteran pretty quick.
Absolutely. Like that Schoonmaker play, that was one Schultz made all the time last year for you for a touchdown. The other takeaway, 8.
And, by the way, he was a Butterfinger player early in his career, big time.
Sure.
And it would even pop up later on in his career.
Well, he couldn't even get on the field his first year. So that's why, don't be writing off these guys just yet. People wanted to write off Jalen Tolbert. You're starting to see Tolbert now might be able to get on the field and be a pretty good player. It's 4 games. Doesn't mean Scooney's going to stink or be a bust, but yesterday certainly not his best game.
No, and I think for me, it's just let's not try and force him the ball. Like, give him time. He's a good blocker for you. That's all I need to see him doing right now. Ferguson is a much better tight end. He dropped an obvious opportunity there in the end zone. And then on one of the red zone opportunities that they botched as well, one of the plays is going to Scooney. And it almost gets intercepted, not to the fault of Scooney, but I'm like, why is the first read Scooney when we're trying to score here? Why is it Scooney 2 yards in front of the end zone just turning around? Why are you not trying to get the ball to your playmakers? We don't need to throw him the ball anymore.
That was a really unfortunate situation because Bentley, the linebacker, blitzes on the play, and Zach Martin stones him. So Bentley stops. And when you stop, what you're taught to do, get your hands up. So he went straight up and the ball got tipped. If he doesn't go up, though, Schoonmaker's in position, and Dak, I think, is going to throw the ball to the outside of him. It's going to be probably a catch, we think, and then either down at the goal line or Schoonmaker's going to get in. It's Bentley. Bentley just got stoned. Zach Martin did such a great job of preventing him from any type of a rush that he's like, okay, if I can't get there, I'm going to just go straight up, and that's what he did.
Bailed him out.
A little bit of bad luck there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the final 3 takeaways, Brandon Aubrey, Plano Zone. Shout out to my fellow Plano Wildcat. I love you, bro. He's made all 13 of his field goal attempts this year. He's made 22 straight kicks, including PAT, since he missed his first ever NFL kick. Shout out to John Fossil, the personnel
He's your bro
department.
now, huh?
Brandon
I love
Aubrey.
you, bro.
Brandon Aubrey's our guy. He's my fellow playing a Wildcat. Fellow alum. Of course. He's my guy.
That guy's trash.
He's my guy. I will never call him trash. Even if he goes 0-for-4 next week, that is my dude.
That guy's trash.
No, I thought you liked the honesty, though, Brian.
I did. I love the honesty. I did.
0-for-4, you think he's only going to get 4 attempts next week?
I hope so. I hope you're catching it in the red zone next week. You're going to need to. Number 9, special teams play. One of the best I've ever seen. That fake punt. Bones was talking
Fake
about
field goal.
it.
Extra
the
point.
fake PAT.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous. And shout out to Chauncey Golston. I mean, and a great throw from Brian Anger.
Well
that was
designed.
brilliant.
Yeah,
Very
we'll
well
get into that.
designed.
We'll do that in
Angry
Krusty's
throw.
corner too. Yeah.
And then number 10, the final one, I do think Michael Gallup's officially back. He's got 11 catches for 152 yards his last 2 games. Saw this from RJ Ochoa. Shout out to you. Most yardage he's had in consecutive games since late 2020. Most catches in consecutive games since around 2020 of Thanksgiving. He hasn't been asked to do a ton, but Gallup's healthy and he's ready to rock.
Maybe not the square peg in the round hole, right? Something like that, as they say.
They figured out
Square
what
peg.
kind of
how they play him.
They got it going on, and congratulations to Michael Gallup. The career can continue. I thought he was on career-ending watch.
I was nervous,
which was shocking because he's only 27 years old, but he's been balling.